New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
Hello, everybody. I think I'm on. Am I?
You are.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Healthy You, Healthy You. Here with me is Dr. Len Young and Miss Rebecca, our ladies that are going to help me today and help all of you try to find that inner spirit in us who will lead us and help us to lead this life maybe a little bit better than we did yesterday. So what we are about to talk today is the question that the humans are having for since we know each other. It's about the healing. It's about what disease is, why we get sick, how we can help ourselves and each other to get healthy, because the being healthy is a predisposition for the fulfillment of the reason why you are here on this earth. So I would love to tell you, as a medical doctor, I study biology, chemistry, physics, the basic of the etiology of the many human diseases. We need to know them as the best as the human knows in this moment. On other sides of etiology and anthropology, the human, we're trying to understand what we are as a human through the philosophy, through the psychology, through the psychiatry, through the religion, through the spiritualism, through the many meaning. Human is in the research of the who we are, who I am for myself, and who you are, the person who I talking with. What is your being? That's what we are in the search. I do believe many of us, as much as the life and the life problems let us do that. Human diseases of the human has many, as I mentioned, etiologic factors. And for many of those, we don't know what is causing certain problems in our spirit, in our body, in our mind, I would say that. So in this particular program, I would love to tell you about my, not healing as me as a doctor, although all of that anatomy, biology, cellular level of the functioning is clear to me, but being, how to heal the human being, how to recognize diseases of the human being, of ourselves, who is telling us about that, and how to reach toward that unknown, invisible space in ourselves in which we can lead our spirit to heal us. So let me start with some specific healing. You have an ankle pain for the long period of the time, or imagine any kind of the body is hurting you right now. You have a mechanical injury or any kind of injury. It could be a very strong, unhealing problem that you may have or not. Could be something small, minor, but this bothers you for a long period of the time. So if the human is possible to see that pain in their spiritual inner eyes, and go with that spiritual inner eyes in that joint that is hurting you, you can actually send the oxygen, blood flow, and with the breathing and the being, you can send the healing to that particular space of your body that is hurting you, to help your body to animate and start to produce its own biological, etiological substances that we have in our cells to go ahead and hit those places, anti-inflammatory or any other level. So yes, you do. If you use your visual inner being and the scent and visualize the processes, even physical in your body, that is hurting you, you can help yourself decrease the pain, increase the speed of the healing, and overall cope better with that. Just those small visualization of the body that is hurting or harming, and the sending oxygen by the breathing, and by relaxing, sending the blood flow in that space, and overall by trusting in believing that you want to be free of the pain or anything else. How much you will success, it's depending on the etiology of your problem, but in a medicine, this is also called biofeedback, and it's a working, and it's a good, and it's a helping, and doesn't have a side effects. So this is just a one level of the healing that I would just mention for the beginning, just for you, listener, to know where we are heading. There is a lot of other things that I would love to talk with you, but I would love to invite both Len and Rebecca to give us self-healing lessons that they learn from their life that you may imply in your life to help you living more happier life overall. Let's go, girls. Which one?
Well, I'll jump in, Rebecca, and I'll just say good morning to everyone. And Stella, you forgot to say your name, so you're Dr. Stela.
I did, huh?
Pavic. And thank you, Stella, for starting that conversation. We had talked about introducing the conversation of self-healing from the inside out as a platform and a foundation for most of our conversations from here on. We've been doing these programs for a year and a half now, and I like the idea of our having a responsibility in what we bring into our bodies, and what illness is, what dis-ease is, how to identify it. And I think there's several ways we can discuss this, and we have a lot of time to do it over the next number of months. I would like to bring up the subject of consciousness, and it is a broad, far-reaching, complex subject that really is hard to define and gives us a lot of space to imagine. Actually, Stella, there's a little feedback, I think, from your sound, just to have you be aware of that. But in looking at consciousness, we have so many different levels, and even the academics will complain that they can't really define consciousness. So one person could believe, for instance, that the world is flat. And if I believe that, then I might look at the edge of the world and not know what happens after I walk off the edge of the world. Or if I thought, well, I walk off the edge of the world and maybe there'll be something that catches me on the other side. That is a defining boundary of how I believe. I also could believe that the sun is the center of the solar system, or the center of the universe, which is larger, and see millions of stars, and imagine that there are other worlds out there, and that there are many beings in those other worlds who could visit us, or we could visit them eventually. But where I would like to go is to imagine that there is something behind all creation. There is a God, if you want to call it that, a spirit, that is physics or science, but there is something we've not been able to define that is greater than we understand, but we recognize it because it's part of who we are and it's within us. And in recognizing that, if we can see that, we might be able to imagine that we can heal ourselves. So it's part of, or an extension of consciousness that really pushes us to imagine that we can be a healer ourselves, that we can heal what's within us. And so I'll give you an idea of something. You might have several friends who are all coming down with the flu. And you can't afford to have the food because you've got too many things on your plate, and you've got to take care of your family, and you're traveling, and there's just many things going on. And so, in quiet thought, one day you sit down and you think, I'm healthy. I choose excellent health. Not only do I choose excellent health, I choose to be able to be free of anything that might like to come into my body. Well, still, you may still get a cold and something may happen. Then you can choose to be healthy quickly. I mean, it is in our thoughts, as Stella mentioned, that we begin that healing process. So we have to take that responsibility, or I see that it's our responsibility to start with our thoughts and to have them be part of our everyday function. So from the time I wake up in the morning, I choose excellent health. I meditate, I pray for everything. I look at the hurricanes that are coming to my day, how I feel in my body, and I spend some time first thing in the morning looking at the world and how I might participate in the energy of the world. And so, for instance, even today, as we're facing this huge cycle coming in at Tallahassee, I was mentioning to you, both of you, before we started, that there is an indigenous song that's a female chieftain song that I think either the Lakotas sung, but it's a woman's song, and it's sung to the spirit of the earth. So from the Greek standpoint to Gaia, but just to our standpoint, to even being on this earth, to the great spirit. And if you'll allow me, I'm going to sing it and keep it in your thoughts and hum along with me, if you will, because it's something we can sing today, and maybe Hurricane Michael will hear us, or maybe the wind will hear us, or the water won't be as forceful coming in at Tallahassee with a 17-foot surge, and we're really looking at a huge amount of water down there. So it's called Oh Great Spirit. So bear with me and sing, ladies. Oh, great spirit, earth and fire and sea, you are inside and all around. Oh,
great
earth, wind, fire and sea, you are inside and all around me. And so, even from the standpoint of self-healing, the resonance and the vibration of music and song and instruments can begin our healing. So, at the very least, if you know you like ABBA songs or the Beatles or something that really can bring your spirit up, start with that. Right, Rebecca?
Absolutely. Anytime you sing, you're putting positive vibrations through your body. So whatever music is your favorite, sing it in the shower, sing it in the car, sing it in the store if you're brave enough.
That should become norm, singing in the store.
That's right. It would be surprising. From a consciousness standpoint, I like the idea about discussing consciousness because it's broad, infinite, and it gives us a lot of opportunity to go into many areas of conversation.
Rebecca,
Yes.
let us know what you think.
Well, self-healing is a favorite topic of mine because to me behind that implies the idea that you have some power and some control in what happens with your body and when we're sick with your healing process. So anyone who believes in self-healing, to me by proxy, also believes that they're participating in their health and wellness. And And I think that's really important, because I think when we get really down, it's because we don't feel like we have the power over something. I work with
That's
breast
great
cancer.
point.
Yeah, I work with breast cancer survivors. And in my clinical practice as a hypnotherapist, to me, everything I do is self-healing, um, self-actualization, self-improvement. And there are so many paths to doing that. We can, people can learn visualization, imagery, guided meditation. Anytime you're even, just something simple like picturing yourself in some sort of Zen place, wherever that peaceful place would be for you. You are creating endorphins in the body. You're able to lower cortisol. The research actually shows that within 10 minutes of self-hypnosis, you can lower your heart rate. You can relax the body, relax the muscles, which improves circulation, and promoting an environment within yourself, mind, body, and spirit, that can be more amenable to self-healing or healing.
Becca, can you tell us what is actually hypnosis means, or self-hypnosis?
That is a great question, Stella, and thank you for asking, because probably the number one thing that people ask me when they come in is, am I going to be knocked out or asleep? And that is the biggest myth, probably perpetuated by dramatic movies. But hypnosis is actually a very natural state that everyone goes into almost every day, and it's a focused state of concentration. It's not being unconscious or asleep. It's that I think everyone can relate to, if you make the drive to and from your home every day from work, and you're going along and you can't remember, was that light green or red? Did I turn? Where am I? So it's a focused state of concentration. Another time when we typically go into a state of hypnosis is when we're watching a TV show or a movie. Sometimes when we're listening to music, we can go into that state. And really what it is, it's you get so focused on one particular thing in your experience that you can tune out everything else.
So it is a rational decision, correct?
Yes.
It's done by a ratio, it's done by mind, it's a rational decision, correct?
Well, at times, and at other times, it's just something automatic. People don't intend to go into a sort of hypnotic state when they're driving. But anytime you're focusing and concentrating on some particular train of thought for a certain amount of time, you tend to go into it. And it just means, when you're watching a movie, you may be so absorbed in the movie, you forget to hear the person behind you chewing their popcorn. Or sometimes we become more sensitive to sounds from around. People have actually different experiences with it. Athletes call it being in the zone. So I actually work with a lot of golfers who need to come and improve their focus and concentration so they can tune out noises. But when it comes to self-healing, I think the biggest thing is having the belief that you do have some influence over your body's ability to heal. And probably one of the biggest ways that people can do that is by what I call emotional health and wellness. So our emotions carry an energy with them. So if you're angry consistently, if you're carrying a lot of grief or frustration, resentment, those emotions carry with them an energy of dis-ease. Imagine that, the word dis-ease. So whenever you're experiencing dis-ease, which oftentimes comes from a situation, our reaction to it is our emotions. The emotions create an energy. So for self-healing, to unravel that, reverse engineer it, is to start to learn to address those chronic stressful emotions and figure out ways to think differently or put yourself in different experiences every day where you promote positive emotions, which create positive energy and endorphins in the body, lowering cortisol, thus to promote self-healing.
So we can tell that our spirit, our being, is in disbalance with our emotions in this moment, because as a majority of the human being, they want to be good, they don't want to tell the lie, they try to be righteous to each other and to themselves. They try to be to listen their own consciousness, what is good or bad for themselves or for their environment, for environment of the loved one or whole world. And in that moment when our spirit loses actually touch with our ratio or our emotion, or it is overpowered with those things, we may go to the way of the disbalance, disconnection. And if the things goes and roll too long, we can get sick on the mental, psychological, physical level. You know that medicine is recognizing somatic diseases and everything else. So the Len is a master of the musicotherapy, the one specific and one particularly modality in this world that it is working on very specific level, not just for the healing the music, but also for the recuperating, rejuvenating that impulse from the hearing to the brain and the back. Len, can you tell us a little bit about what is the background, how that started? Tell us a little bit about, for the people who would love to heal themselves and learn a little bit more about that.
So you're talking about the Tomatis Method.
Yes.
What it is. And actually, Dr. Tomatis, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, was a visionary. And I think, talking about consciousness, he knew the physiology of the body, and he imagined what that physiology might be if there were a way to influence it with a change of vibration. And that's when he brought in music. So what we really focus on is the makeup of the ear and the auditory pathway, how that pathway begins with the ear and goes into the brain and affects the entire body through muscular and nerve structure and function. And the music, the vibration of the music, works with human vibration to bring it into balance. And that balance actually is a very simple thing, but very naturally, the balance of the body then adjusts, and it adjusts to where the ear needs to be to hear sound easily, and it then can bring an ease of living in the world. So for instance, so I was going to speak to the fear in the world right now. It's everywhere. It's not just in our country, but it's in the whole world. There seems to be a rise in fear. And I'm not sure if that's not a cellular experience, that's not something we feel in our bodies. But if we as individuals buy into that, then it will put us in a state of dis-ease. Well, what the music does, what the program I work with does, is it will actually soothe the ear, ask the ear in itself to function the way it was created to function. And it does this by simply exercising little tiny muscles in the middle ear. It's music that does that. So without any effort from somebody who's listening, the music can bring balance to the ear, bring attention, it increases energy. And so with that, I mean, it's really a tool. It is brought to the individual then to be able to manifest or bring further healing to oneself. So for instance, when the ear is functioning more effectively and we're able to sit in a conversation and not have 5 other thoughts going on in our minds, we can be very focused and our attention can then bring about a result faster by being focused and having clearer auditory processing. I think I'm jumping around a little bit, which is sort of, it's a tool to assist us because in the end, we really are the ones who do the healing. So if there's a physiological block from a trauma we might have experienced in life, from ear infections to falling off a horse or a bicycle,
even birth trauma,
a birth trauma, any of
birth
those,
trauma, or any trauma,
or a disease, or a loss of a loved one, or any number of things can put us in a place where we're not hearing sound clearly. And so this program actually helps correct that, and it can do that. But there is a piece to it. So I will watch one client to the next, and they might have very similar presenting situations. One will achieve great results, the other will get partway there, and there'll still be some good results, but it won't be fully. And I think it's based in the belief system. Can this be healed? Can something change? And so this is where we get back to what you were mentioning, Rebecca, in responsibility. Well, you too, Stella. We have a responsibility in recognizing what part we play in healing, in the healing process. And so I recognize when if I ever have some kind of respiratory thing that is a bacteria, I need the antibiotic. But if you tell me it's a virus, then I know that I have to work harder to make it heal or to help it heal. So there is a responsibility in us. So thank you, Stella, for asking about Tomatis. I haven't thought about that as much from a self-healing standpoint because there's equipment and there's a program and it does the work with the individual. But there is the aspect, always the aspect of self-healing. What part do we play in anything we do? Absolutely anything. Even when we go and worship wherever we worship, or if we're standing on a mountaintop in a wonderful hike and the weather's fabulous and we're feeling all the elements of the earth, what is it that we can do to be part of that? How does that bring us a wholeness and a connection to the earth that helps us? Yeah.
Awesome.
From your standpoint, you work with so many elderly and people who have decided to be in retirement places with all different levels of retirement. And I know you greet people who are exiting, and you also work with people who are just ailing. And so maybe you could say something about that as far as self-healing goes. You must see remarkable things occur.
So when one-time body starts to fall apart to irreparable level, as a human being, as a doctor, you can help only to those people to improve from the sensational point of the perceptional point. That means how they perceive the situation that is happening to them. Ease them and free them from the fear. That's your job as a doctor when you have a declining of the body to the level that is what we call exit from this world. So what I have seen, it's there, as I have seen everywhere else that I was working, there is something that is called, and it's, I do believe, started even in Croatia. I do believe, I need to double check. It's called hagiotherapy. It is called hagiotherapy. Hagiotherapy is based to understand what we are missing here in modern medicine, what we are missing in the ancient medicine, how to bridge that what human anthropologically is. Is it just only, it's not just a body, I mean, definitely. It's a persona that we are, and that persona is not just made from our neurobiological standpoint of our ratio or a brain. It is not. We know that there is something deeper that medicine cannot measure. Philosophy and religion try to explain on its own way, as the best as possible. But who we are as a persona as a unique human being, I do believe it's deeply described with our being, inner being, that is with our mind right now. We can point on this or that level, but what I would love to say, hagiotherapy. So what is the hagiotherapy, and why is it necessary that humans, as more human as possible, start to practice that? Is actually, it's a freeing our spirit to be who that spirit is meant to be from the beginning. So for our life, and somebody tried to put the certain borders or rules of the behavior, of the name it. And but hagiotherapy is actually loving, is allowing the being that is in front of you. It's understanding of the being that is in front of you, of being compassionate toward that being, of the helping that being to understand that if he or she does not love themselves, itself, so strong to being compliant with their being, most likely his life in that moment until readjustment will go down. That means he will be acceptable to overuse and abuse alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, certain drugs, bad words, unloving, judging, talking the lies, not respecting the neighbor, cheating, name it. The person personally allow herself, himself, to do those things, not listening its own consciousness, not the consciousness that the society, that is very restrictive and fearful, place on ourselves, but not listening its own consciousness. If you steal, you automatically feel that you need to return. So this is the meaning of the hagiotherapy. Hagiotherapy is to make yourself being more in the love with yourself and the world around yourself, more merciful, not lying, not stealing, avoiding the things that are harmful for your body, like a different kind of addiction. If you hit your wife or if you hitting your children in anger, is a time to for you to sit and do hypnotherapy, Tomatis therapy, yoga, walking on the street, praying constantly, so that your character, that your being that is attacked from the world and making you not being the best of yourself, you start to heal that small points. First, how you will heal it? First, by recognizing that something is wrong in your life, that there are situations, physical situation or psychological, you don't sleep well. Why don't you sleep well? Let's see what is the behind of that you do to yourself as a being that is preventing for you that you can be the sickest of the all in the body, but the healthiest of all in the spirit. So when you're saying, Len, what I'm doing with my old people over there, when I see over there, I hug them. Why? I don't hug your mom, for example. Why? Because she's a hugged, you know? She hugged herself, and there is so many of you over there. I see that this lady doesn't need a touch. But my people in my retirement home, the families are busy for providing the necessary things in this society, food and rent. So they don't, as much, they leave the people to be too long, too alone. And they just need the human being to hear them, that human being to perceive them as a human being. And they are slow to talk. You need to have a patience to listen. Majority of them, they cannot move their arm or anything. But some of them are ready to go. Some of them are very sad to go. So for those people who are sad to go, you should hug them and talk with them about how beautiful their being is, and that is infinitive. Because look at this. Right now we are here in the body, you, me, and Rebecca. But where we are without spirit. Without spirit, I can be in Hawaii right now. and recall and remember all of those, whatever I did over there, and bringing that sun, to practically feeling the sun to touching, or see to touching my skin. What was the most interesting thing when I went to for the smoking sensation to Rebecca is this experience with hypnosis. This experience is exactly what she described it right now. It's a state in which you bring yourself of the being focused on the certain things that you want to achieve in your life. So if you have any problem in your life, you practically try to focus and find an answer. If you have an answer, go ahead and fix it. If you do not have an answer, trust, believe, be faithful, be in the hope, postpone and wait. There is a terrible things that can happen to human beings. Just to name it, everything is possible to happen to us or to people that we love. Are we going to despair? We should not. We should not judge ourselves that certain things happen because we did this, that, and that. That's bad religion. Good religion is the religion that we are loving sons and daughters of the living God living in us as a being of us, and that our possibilities are unlimitless. So that's what I would love to tell you. We do have unlimited possibilities giving to us in our being that we need to nourish through the hagiotherapy as one of them. And I'll talk about hagiotherapy. I am researching hagiotherapy. I'm very interested and involved in the hagiotherapy. It looks like something that is combined, that's some kind of the things that combine psychologically, spiritual, physical, philosophy, anthropology. It looks like there is something combining in the wholeness that could be the key.
But you do that, Rebecca, when you work with clients. I remember, in my experience with you, and I think you've been wonderful. There is a kindness and maybe not a physical hug, but there is a spiritual hug that comes when we enter your office.
Beautiful,
and
yeah.
There's a place of safety that's really wonderful. You want to say something about that? Because I think that's really a great way to work with any provider of or supplier of a tool that we might use.
So it makes me think about, right when you said that, thank you. I feel like when people come to see me, I try to offer a very non-judgmental, safe space. And when people are going through something, an illness or a disease, let's say, again, cancer being one of the worst things you can imagine, people feel like their body has betrayed them. They can actually be very judgmental against themselves.
Mm-hmm.
As people age and their hips are giving out, or they're, they have back issues, they get angry with their bodies for not being able to do what they used to do. I'm actually seeing this a lot with people in their 40s. They need more sleep all of a sudden, and they get down on themselves for needing more sleep. They suddenly have aches and pains, and that could be inflammation, but so there's this self-rejection, self-criticism, self-loathing, even. And so I really try to offer people a non-judgmental space that then they could also step into with themselves. If the body, I remember years ago I had chronic fatigue, and I was really mad at myself. My kids were little; they were 5 and 6, and I would put them on the bus and go back to bed, and I beat myself up about it. I'm lame. I think my husband didn't understand. He thought I was lazy. And it was like I was mad at myself for not having more energy, for having this ailment. It felt like a weakness to be sick. And so I think one of the most powerful things we can do in our journey to self-healing is to love the body, to try to, consider it almost like, a friend. What's wrong? What's going on? Is there, and there was there was a physiological component, there was a nutritional component to that chronic fatigue for me. There was an emotional component, and it took me totally surrendering to honoring my body and what it was struggling with to get to this place where I could be more loving with the journey to self-healing. And I think that is so key. If you're going to be on that journey with your body for self-healing, you've got to be more loving with whatever challenges you're experiencing.
I agree with that. I think that is, sorry, Stella, I wanted to respond to that because I find that's perhaps one of the biggest challenges for myself. I give all day, I'm constantly doing things for others and for myself. I benefit from it too, but I'm not always as aware of what I'm doing for myself. And once in a while to just sit down and quietly give myself some time is a gift that seems rarer these days. So I like that a lot. I wanted to actually mention one thing before we finish today, and that is fields of emotion, fields of behavior, and fields of illness that we can carry from generation to generation. And Carl Jung did address this, and he started to talk about being able to change the fields. And then James Hillman, who came after Carl Jung, actually wrote about it. And now there are some current Jungians who are giving ways for us to change those fields. The first action is to recognize there's a field of behavior. And that could be a behavior in a relationship. It could be a physical behavior that goes from generation to generation that people can inherit. They say they can inherit it, and you can inherit a field that can stay in a family, even like dry skin or something simple like that. But there are inherited illnesses that stay in the body, and a lot to talk about. I'd like to bring it up more next time and maybe do a little research into what is being done for it, because there are physiological realities that come generation to generation. And yet I understand once we recognize a field, we can change the field. We can stop a field from existing from 4, 5, and 6 generations that we've seen coming down with us. And I'd like to be able to give some suggestions of how we do that. The first being to love ourselves, to recognize that our body can be healthy without whatever that field is, without whatever that behavior is. My mother always had dry skin, and I've just decided I don't. And so, that's a simple thing. It takes work, and I'm shifting it, but my daughter doesn't have it. I've not said it to her, so it really is interesting how we can change things. So loving ourselves first, Rebecca, I think that was a beautiful way to consider field. And then having even a family understand that the field can change. So I know that you have experience in working with people with addictions. And I know that there's a good material out there that says if there's an alcoholic in one family, there's a chance of such a high percentage that somebody else will be an alcoholic. Well, I think that's field behavior. And I think that can be stopped. And so when somebody says, well, my mother's an alcoholic, I can't drink because I'm going to be one, I actually don't believe that. So here comes the belief structure. If you believe it, then you're already on your way to having that in your life, or one's already on one's way to being there. If you don't believe it, then you can function differently, and your body responds differently, and you can love your body differently from that. So do you all have any comment to my suggesting that? Because that has to do with self-healing as well.
I think we need what I would love to to tell to our listener is recognize stigma, recognize your own judgment to yourself and to other people around yourself. Right now, wherever you have it, release it. Release it toward yourself and release it toward the people you are talking about during the session in a negative way. Today, in today's society, being on the Facebook and on other social media, we are faced with the people who we know better or less, with their posting, who are harmful to our society. Their opinion is harmful to our souls. So I'm suggesting it that just release them for the certain period of the time, not to recognize that people through that post 100%. This is partial part of the person through this particular period of the time that will cease, change or stay. It's not up to you. You cannot do a lot about that. What you can do is to stop stigma, you says American stigma, stigmatizing other people as ultimate bad or ultimately good. Yeah, all human beings with lots of things to judge ourselves first and then other. Be aware of your consciousness. Consciousness is a voice of your being who will tell you, watch up, this is good, this is not. Try to find the power to change those things because it is healing for you. And please, 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 watch up. We judge all the time. We judge right now, consciously, unconsciously. Try that those judgment doesn't harm your body, your spirit, and the most important, you can heal yourself, watch up, not to harm the other human being in front of you with your understanding of what is right, what is wrong. That is, history shows us that is this most likely not the case in most of the time. So be humble.
Be humble, and that's great. And we're out of time, ladies. So we'll see you in another month on the second Wednesday of November. Great. And y'all have a great week and be safe with this tropical storm.
All the best. God bless you all.
Bye.